Welcome back. Let's continue the discussion on the electricity tariff hike, and now being joined via Skype by Mamoun Saleh, who is a political analyst. He joins us from Abuja now. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the program. Let me get your take now on this electricity tariff hike. Do you think in this situation the country had any other choice?
Well, the increase on 1st September this year by the government on electricity price per unit is absolutely disturbing, because already the larger portion of the population, 85% or more, are in a very, very difficult situation economically. So it adds salt to the injury. People cannot afford 3 square meals, and electricity is one of the vital energy source of Nigerians. The welders use it, the tailors use it, the barbers use it, and most factories, grinding machines, and so on and so forth, they're using it for their daily livelihood. So with the increment, a lot of Nigerians cannot afford that price. So I think the regime of
if I get you correctly, what you're trying to say is that, look, while the increase might be necessary, the timing is wrong.
Absolutely. But even, is it necessary to increase the price? I doubt.
Why did you say so?
I doubt. Because this electricity generation in Nigeria, I believe, if it can be maintained at a lower price in 2015, why not 2020?
Well, this is the point now. Those who are involved in this generation, of course, the majority of them private individuals. As you're aware, the government has actually privatized a large part of the electricity sector in this country. Now, if these people have invested money so much, should they be running at a loss? Are they not running a business? They have salaries to pay. They have organizations to run. The gas, for instance, they generate to power their turbines. They are not getting that gas for free. They buy this gas as well. So how then do you expect that after spending so much, they would now be selling electricity at far below what they spend?
I agree with you quite all right. They made a lot of investment, and they want to recover the investment and make profit. But the government should try to introduce a sort of palliative in the gas supply to these GENCOs.
But this is where the problem is, because what you're trying to say now is palliative in the form of subsidy. And of course, as we know, for a very long time, the government has subsidized the electricity sector. Even when the government was running the entire show by itself, electricity was largely subsidized. But then you have electricity subsidy. We also want petrol subsidy and all of that. Do you think this country can actually afford it, especially at this time?
Well, the government have removed subsidy from petroleum products. That's acceptable. They should at least maintain that subsidy on electricity, because you cannot promulgate a policy simultaneously. You have to take it gradually. Remove that of petroleum products, then later, after 3, 4, 5 years, then gradually remove that of electricity. You cannot remove the two at the same time. It's impossible. People will feel the brunt.
Especially at a time when Nigerians are going through difficulties, right?
Absolutely.
For you now, what do you think is the way out of this? Because, you know, the announcement has been made, tariff has been increased, and what do you think is the best way to deal with this?
The government should invite the stakeholders, more especially the GENCOs, the generating companies, have a roundtable discussion with them. Government initiate a sort of palliative in terms of the pricing of the gas, because gas production is exclusively from the government. It's not imported, and it's not manufactured by private individuals. So the government should at least subsidize the gas so that the Gencos can have it at a better price, so that the price should be maintained at least the price which it was existing before now.
But you know, the irony is that in fact, the government is actually not the sole producer of gas, because, you know, we have some of these IOCs who produce gas, and they produce gas with their money. Of course, you have, in some cases, you have this joint venture with the government. So it's not as if it's a sole government thing. So is it a decision that government can just take alone without factoring in these IOCs? I'm talking about the international oil companies now, who are actually the producers of this gas.
You see, natural resources, be it gas or crude oil or whatever, is exclusively owned by the federal government. The federal government can dictate the way they want.
Well, I understand it's exclusively owned by the federal government, but the truth is that the federal government does not have the money to produce it. So, and that's the reason why it goes into joint ventureship. I mean, just as you have it in the oil industry, which is rife anyway. Yes, it belongs to the country, but somebody's actually spending money to get these products off the ground.
Agreed. Quite all right, agreed. But you know, the government has all the apparatus of governorship. They should try to sit down, as they sit down with the generating companies, they should equally sit down with the IOCs to discuss with them the way the price will be reduced for these Gencos, so that at least a reduction in price should be achieved.
Would you say, for instance, the model that requires that rich people should pay more for electricity while poor people probably pay less, do you think that model is a good one?
But how can you distinguish between a rich and a poor man in Nigeria? Because we don't have any data. We cannot demarcate.
Really?
Of course. How can I assess that?
A good example is what we have seen even in Lagos here, where, you know, in some rich neighborhood, we know where these rich people live anyway. So the rich neighborhoods, for instance, will reach an agreement with the discos, for instance, and say, okay, look, we're going to pay higher, just give us more power supply. For instance, give us 20 hours of power supply and we will pay higher. So it might not be too difficult to identify these rich people, as you think.
Well, that's Lagos. But if you move to places like Yobe, like Jigawa, like Kebbi, where you cannot distinguish between a rich and poor man, how can Lagos, quite all right, maybe Lagos, Abuja, maybe these two urban centers it's possible to say area A is exclusively for the rich people and area B, C, D is for the middle class or lower class people. But that will not serve. That's not the best. Prices of energy should be a flat rated price.
So you mean the rich and the poor should pay the same? That would not be fair.
No.
No, because what I'm saying is, let's look at it. The poor does not consume what the rich consume. So if you're going to have subsidy, why should the government be subsidizing the rich?
It's not a question. But even if the rich paid, they cannot fill up the deficit, because Nigeria will have larger percentage of poor people than the rich. So no matter how much the rich people paid, they cannot cover up the deficit.
Absolutely, I understand you, absolutely. But don't you also think that the rich should pay more?
Yeah, let's assume rich areas like here in Abuja, Maitama, Asokoro, we can charge them maybe 100 naira per unit of electricity. Maybe other slums and other lower class areas can be charged 10 naira or 50 naira, for example. That's 50% of the price. The gap will never be filled. How much are they, the rich people in Nigeria? How many people are in this exclusive area?
I understand you. I understand the gap cannot be filled, but at least it can go a long way in reducing what the government spends on subsidy anyway.
No, it won't go a long way. It's a very, very short span.
But the alternative cannot be that the rich and poor should pay the same.
I'm suggesting that let the rich and poor pay the same, and government should be responsible for subsidizing the exploration of gas, then by extension subsidizing the price of gas to the Gencos. That's the only alternative. Nothing more, nothing less. Nigeria cannot afford this price. Absolutely. It's beyond their reach. Already we are being hit by expensive foodstuff, accommodation, fuel, expensive foreign exchange, and so on and so forth. So the burden are so enormous. VAT has been increased 7.5%, and so on and so forth. So how can a Nigerian who is operating within the devastated economy generate enough money to take care of all these overheads? It's impossible. How much is the minimum salary? 30,000 naira. Not of all governments in the country are paying that 30,000 naira. What is 30,000 naira? How can an average family maintain itself with 30,000 naira?
All right. Mr. Mahmoud Saleh, political analyst, thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. We're back again next week. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.